had barely walked 50 feet up the trail when he felt a sudden rush of warm air overtake him from behind. The chirping of a songbird broke the ice silence. The path in front of him rapidly lost its veneer of snow and ice, as if someone were blow drying it. Max stopped and watched it as all around him the white covering dissolved and was replaced by emerging and radiant growth. 3 weeks of spring unfolded before him. In 30 seconds he rubbed his eyes and steadied himself in the swirl of activity. Even the light snow that had begun to fall had changed to tiny blossoms lazily drifting to the ground. What he was seeing, of course, was not possible. The snowbanks had vanished, and summer wildflowers began to color the borders of the trail and the forest as far as he could see. Robins and finches darted after one another among the trees. Squirrels and chipmunks occasionally crossed the path ahead, some stopping to sit up and watch him for a moment before plunging back into the undergrowth. He even thought that he glimpsed a young buck emerging from a dark glade in the forest, but on second look it was gone, as if that weren't enough. The scent of blooms began to fill the air, not just the drifting aroma of wild mountain flowers, but the richness of roses and orchids and other exotic fragrances found in more tropical climes. Meg was no longer thinking about home. A terror gripped him as if he had opened Pandora's box and was being swept away into the center of madness to be lost forever. Instead, he carefully turned around, trying to hold on to some sense of sanity. He was stunned. Little, if anything, was the same. The dilapidated shack had been replaced by a sturdy and beautifully constructed log cabin, now standing directly between him and the lake, which he could see just above the rooftop. It was built out of hand-peeled, full-length long logs. Everyone cried for a perfect fit, instead of the dark and forbidding overgrowth of brush, barriers, and devil's club. Everything Mac could see was now postcard perfect. Smoke was lazily wending its way from the chimney into the late afternoon sky, a sign of activity inside. A walkway had been built to and around the front porch, bordered by a small white picket fence. The sound of laughter was coming from nearby, maybe inside, but he wasn't sure. Perhaps, and that was what it was like to experience a complete psychotic breakdown. I'm losing it, Mac whispered to himself. This can't be happening. This isn't real. It was a place that Mac could have imagined only in his best dreams, and this made it all the more suspect. The sights were wondrous, the sense intoxicating, and his feet, as if they had a mind of their own, took him back down the walkway and up onto the front porch. Flowers bloomed everywhere, and the mix of floral fragrances and pungent herbs aroused hints of memories long forgotten. He had always heard that the nose was the best link to the past, that the olfactory sense was the strongest for tapping into forgotten history, and now some long stored remembrance of his own childhood flitted through his mind. Once on the porch, he stopped again. Voices were clearly coming from inside. Meg rejected the sudden impulse to run away as if he were some kid who had thrown his ball into a neighbor's flower garden. But if got it inside, it wouldn't do much good anyway, would he? He closed his eyes and shook his head to see if he could erase the hallucination and restore reality. But when he opened them, it was all still there. He tentatively reached out and touched the wooden railing. It certainly seemed well. He now faced another dilemma. What should you do when you come to the door of a house or cabin in this case, where God might be? Should you knock? Presumably, God already knew that Meg was there. Maybe he ought to simply walk in and introduce himself, but that seemed equally absurd. And how should he address him? Should he call him Father or Almighty One, or perhaps my God, Mr. God? And would it be best if he fell down and worshipped now? Not that he was really in the mood, as he tried to establish some inner mental balance. The anger that he thought had so recently died inside him began to emerge. No longer concerned or caring about what to call God and energized by his errand, he walked up to the door. Meg decided to bang loudly and see what happened. But just as he raised his fist to do so, the door flew open, and he was looking directly into the face of a large, being, beaming African American woman. Instinctively, he jumped back, but he was too slow. With speed that belied her size, she crossed the distance between them and engulfed him in her arms, lifting him clear of his feet and spinning him around like a little child. And all the while she was shouting his name, Mackenzie Allen Phillips, with the order of someone seeing a long lost and deeply loved relative. She finally set him back on earth and, with her hands on his shoulders, pushed him back as if to get a good look at him. Mac, look at you. She fairly exploded. Here you are, and so grown up. I have really been looking forward to seeing you face to face. It is so wonderful to have you here with us. My, how I do